Welcome to PolitiPod, where we join you for fun with politics, governance, and more. I'm your host, Matt Nisanoff. Welcome to our episode, Queen. On this PolitiPod, Tom, Kristen, and Matt bring you the word from the street. For sketches, Dom DeCecco's take on the tariff terror, and Dom has an op-ed to end the current violence. We have an inside look at the words Republicans do not want you to hear. Christina Wise provides you with the 100-day press conference from the White House. And Christina Wise has information on upcoming elections. As always, thank you for joining us. Here's the first segment of Word from the Street.
This is the Word from the Street. I'm Tom Myers. Sarah Sanders will soon leave the White House. It makes sense. She hasn't held a press conference in weeks, so she technically hasn't done any work. D-Day soldiers returning to Normandy commemorated the occasion by doing the same thing they did 75 years ago, pissing and shitting themselves before they reached their destination. During several interviews in a cemetery where several American soldiers' remains are buried, Trump continued to make partisan statements. He probably doesn't recognize the validity of any cross that's not on fire. Trump and French President Emmanuel Macron reignited their tendency to embrace each other during the D-Day ceremonies in France. I wonder if Macron and Ivanka wear the same perfume. Once Trump finished with his D-Day celebration responsibilities, he celebrated the same way Eisenhower did when he left the World War II war zone. He went to play golf. Melania Trump says, "There's a special chemistry between Donald and I. I think that means she was drugged throughout their courtship." I have a theory that Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi, Missouri, and other states are turning back the clock so far it will be 1861 again when they seceded from the Union. It's my fervent hope that if that happens again, Americans will think, fuck it, let them leave, it's not worth the fight. The Onion ran a headline about Mike Pence visiting a gay conversion therapy center just to be safe. I know it's an Onion headline, but he probably does this in real life. A helicopter made a crash landing onto a roof on a high-rise in New York City. It could be an accident, it could be terrorism, or worse. It could have been Donald Trump Jr. taking a trip to buy hair care products. Organizers in Boston are putting together a straight pride parade. I thought they already had straight pride parades in Boston. Lines to get into Red Sox, Patriots, Bruins, and Celtics games. The anniversary of Watergate was this past Monday. On another note, I think the most appropriate way to visit the Nixon Library would be to break in the middle of the night. NBC News anchor Lester Holt is known as the most trusted news anchor in America. He's succeeding Brian Williams. That's like saying Angela Merkel is the most easygoing German chancellor because one of her predecessors was Hitler. For PolitiPod, I'm Tom Myers.
Good evening and welcome to How It Really Works, CNBC's weekly program that explains basic economic ideas, because our public servants have no idea what they're doing. I'm your host, Mark Ledger, and we're joined by none other than the Secretary of the Treasury, Steve Mnuchin. Welcome to the program, Mr. Secretary.
Thank you, Mark. It's a pleasure to be here.
Great. Now, Mr. Secretary, in recent months, the President has imposed tariffs on China multiple times, and more recently threatened to impose tariffs on Mexican goods as a pretext to get a deal on immigration. Throughout the process, the President has made public statements and tweets that lead one to believe he doesn't have a clear understanding of how tariffs operate. Could you explain to our audience what tariffs are and the administration's position on utilizing tariffs in setting economic policy?
Certainly, Mark. There's a lot of misinformation out there. Too many people in the media are doing a terrible job reporting this issue. I appreciate you allowing me to set the record straight. The American people deserve to know the truth.
Great. What can you tell us?
Tariffs are awesome. The president realized early on that tariffs have a variety of uses and that previous presidents were stupid not to take advantage of them, like using them to show China we're tough on trade. Slapping those tariffs on Chinese goods will bring a lot of money to the U.S.
Right. But won't that money be coming from American businesses and American consumers?
Money's money, Mark. Doesn't matter how you get it, just that you have it. And tariffs against the Chinese are just the start. The Mexicans agreed to be tougher on illegal immigration from Central America as soon as we threatened tariffs against them, too.
Okay, but the facts indicate that Mexico's already agreed to do all that stuff months ago, and the tariff threat didn't affect anything. However, it does increase the cost of beer, tequila, car parts for Americans. Do you consider that a win?
Absolutely. Now maybe Americans will drink more American beer. Besides, the president thinks Mexico will do whatever we ask because they love American stuff like baseball and breast implants.
Wait, what? What are you talking about?
The president has it on good authority, I believe he talked to a Mar-a-Lago gardener, that Mexican guys like American women with large breasts and watching baseball. Who am I to question the intelligence of the President of the United States?
Okay, whatever. So you're okay with essentially taxing American consumers in the short term to gain some economic advantages? How does that look?
Simple. Whenever farmers, business leaders, or consumers start to complain, we just remind them about MS-13 or socialism. Tariffs give us the ability to make trade more difficult. The proverbial fly in the ointment. Nobody likes dealing with difficult people. That's when we know we've got them right where we want them.
I don't understand.
Well, that's okay. It's hard to understand if you don't have the president's brain. The way to look at it simply is, tariffs are good. Other countries are bad. Once you boil it down to its essence, it's not so hard. And our philosophy is going to extend to other policy-making areas as well.
Such as?
Climate change, for one. Due to the increased price of goods, American taxpayers won't be able to afford a summer vacation. That means less cars on the road, less carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. Win-win.
That doesn't sound like it'd be very popular with the president's base.
Oh, they love anything he does, as long as he continues to hold rallies and make fun of Democrats.
I have to say, Mr. Secretary, for a man educated on economics, I'm surprised at your cavalier attitude on tariffs.
You see, Mark, it's not about economics. It's about politics. And thumbing our noses at other countries is good politics. As a matter of fact, we're considering enforcing tariffs against Europe, just because NATO makes the president's supporters angry.
So you're admitting here on cable television that the president's using tariffs for political reasons.
Don't be naive, Mark. All economic decisions are political. And the president just texted me a few minutes ago that we may impose tariffs on Mars to get them to pay for Space Force.
You know there's no trade with Mars. Or life, for that matter.
Details. You see, Mark, it would be the Americans paying the tariffs on Martian goods. Americans who are mostly geeks like Star Trek or Star Wars, and the president can't stand those whiny little nerds anyway. With the revenue we generate from Martian tariffs, the president believes we'll have Space Force fully operational by 2022.
Okay, well, that's all we have time for. Thank you for being on the show, Mr. Secretary.
Wait, I didn't get to tell you about the tariffs we're going to impose against the North Pole. The president thinks we can get 2 Christmases every year. Doesn't that sound great?
Good night.
PolitiPod, in combination with Election Central, lets you know of upcoming elections. This report covers the Northeast, the South, and U.S. territories. On Saturday, June 22nd, the city of Brownsville, Texas, has a runoff election to pick its mayor, Commissioner at Large A, and Commissioner in District 1. Voting takes place from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. On June 25th, the great state of New York has one special election and a number of primary elections in the Empire State. New York State Senate District 57 has a special election. The Democratic candidate is set, but the Republicans are picking their candidate. The primary elections are in New York City and the counties of Nassau, Suffolk, Westchester, Rockland, Orange, Putnam, Dutchess, and Erie. Polls open at 6 a.m. and close at 9 p.m. In all other counties, polls open at 12 noon and close at 9 p.m. This is Christina Wise with your Election Central report, covering the Northeast, the South, and U.S. territories. Thank you for listening. Of course, elections happen across America every week, so get registered and go vote.
All statements in the following presentation are the sole product of the author and do not reflect the opinions or policies of PolitiPod, its staff, or management.
Well, it's happened again. It seems at this point to be a weekly occurrence. The headlines lay out the cold numbers, name the victims, thoughts, prayers, well wishes are offered, but action is never taken. It's as if we're so desensitized that we have succumbed to these regular atrocities as simply the natural order of things, the cost we must bear for living in a free society. So adherent to a rigid principle that we are unwilling to consider if change is even a possibility. And so, with each new report, we reflect solemnly for a few moments, possibly shed a tear, before shrugging our shoulders in resignation and distracting ourselves with the latest viral phenomenon or pop culture obsession. Well, not me. Not anymore. This latest incident is the last straw. I will no longer be silenced by society's callous acceptance nor my own ambivalence. Too much is at stake. Unprovoked violence must not be tolerated. The shocking images of victims are seared in my brain. The stunned look on the faces of witnesses. The disheveled aftermath that can never fully be cleansed from the memories of those present. And allowing the perpetrators of these heinous acts unfettered access to the tools of their carnage is unforgivable. We must call upon our community leaders and lawmakers to take a stand. Swift action is required. This is not the time for half measures or hollow platitudes. It must be decisive. There is no other way. The time has come to ban milkshakes. Yes, milkshakes. It is up to us to ensure no more spineless politicians suffer the humility of dairy-induced shame thrust upon them by a dissatisfied electorate. We must immediately implement a policy of lactose zero tolerance. It's the only way. Thank you.
It's time once again for your word from the street on PolitiPod. I'm Kristen Joseph. NBC announced 5 moderators for the first Democratic candidates debate. So that's like 1 moderator per 100 candidates. The DNC says it will need 1 less lectern for the night Beto O'Rourke is in the debate, since they assume he'll just stand on the moderator's table. So many people are out on the streets protesting that it reminded Trump of an inaugural, Obama's. Ted Cruz joins AOC in call to ban legislators from accepting lobbying positions after serving in Congress. Hell would have frozen over if not for climate change. Louise Linton, who is married to Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin, has complained that it sucks being hated in a new interview, adding, "Why can't we just let them all eat cake?" Kavanaugh defender Amy Chua's daughter gets Supreme Court job with Kavanaugh. No word on which of Lori Loughlin's daughters she's replacing. Recently, a mother, father, and 5-year-old son stole $800 in frames from Richmond Eye experts. So you can be guilty and framed at the same time. A Trump judge who endorsed the theory that abortion causes cancer was confirmed by the Senate, especially if you have one anywhere near a windmill. Trump says if a foreign agent approaches him with information on an opponent, he would collude with them and not call the FBI. In fact, he has seen a lot of things and never called the FBI. To be fair, this is one way to waive your Fifth Amendment. Trump said climate change goes both ways, which also explains why a certain porn star took the name Stormy. Trump said he was not a fan of the Vietnam War. Who can blame him? Apparently, it causes bone spurs. Senator Tammy Duckworth says Trump has a yellow streak down his back. Combined with the orange streak on his face, that makes him 1/3 of a pride flag. You'd think he'd be more sensitive to LGBTQ issues. Trump is now fighting with Bette Midler. Man, it's going to be hard for Lindsey Graham to choose sides in this one. And that's your word from the street on PolitiPod. I'm Kristen Joseph.
Nope.
It said even now the Republicans are planning their next move to obstruct investigation of acts that obstruct investigation. Or it could be just taking the last word they hear and saying they're doing the same thing. The party of smaller government truly does not give a damn about what they do as far as governance. In any case, top Republicans are meeting with top Republican Freedom Caucus members to discuss further steps.
We have to figure something out.
I got it. Let's go to the bathroom at the same time. Works for my wife at dinner with friends.
Good idea, but we're mostly a bunch of old white guys. Our base will think we're a bunch of old gay white guys. Not good.
Okay. What if we try to use the rules of decorum? You know, say certain words can't be used. Like we never used the word turtle around Mitch.
I'm certainly all for that. But how do we stay within the rules? It's not something I do a lot of. Remember what we always say. Rules of law are for suckers.
Check on what the rules are and on what words we could ban.
The rules say we don't need no stinking rules.
I was in touch with Dent, but she has a recording session, so she can't help us. It's up to us to make up a list. I haven't made a list since that intern sex scandal I don't talk about.
That was a long list. What if we take every fifth word from the rules and say they are banned? It'll be easy to remember, because it'll be taken the fifth.
But we also need to make sure it obstructs the discussion. We all know he's guilty. We are not called the Freedom Caucus for nothing. We want everything for us to be free, and we count on our base to be dumb. Republicans' budgets are free from constraints. All Republicans are free from being held guilty, and we don't pay taxes. We pay mistresses.
Everyone submit a list of words, and we will go over them. Mulvaney, all words is asking too much.
Aww.
Cruz, good list, but half of these are not actual words.
Aww.
Buck, the heart attack proved you have a heart, but these words are too obvious to ban. All words with the letter D is too broad.
Aww.
Well then, who is a wordy guy we can bring in?
Dent is still out. Schwarzenegger said hasta la vista, baby. And we couldn't understand what Bannon was going on about.
We will have to punt in this. Just figure what the top 9 to 15 words have been said in the last 3 committee meetings, and suggest that for now.
Maybe we can get Trump's liar to mouth it.
D-Day had good people on both sides. Immigrants on the other side of the border are evil. My daddy didn't get me this job, and pineapple on pizza is natural.
Perhaps not. Let's just do a quick press release.
Aww.
In a topsy-turvy set of events, we now have a press release on the terms Republicans want banned in committee meetings. Is it the same words they wanted banned in the previous committee hearings when they ran the committee? Of course not. Of course it's not. And worse, the rumors are they're supporting pineapple on pizza. Back to you.
Nope.
I'm Matt Nisanoff, and along with Christina Wise, we bring you the Election Central Report on PolitiPod, where we endeavor to pass on word of upcoming elections from across the United States. We'd like to ask your help. If you've not heard us give information on your local elections, please let us know. We want to be able to share, and we'll be happy to give you a tip of the hat for providing the election information, which office is up for election, the date, and the hours the polls will be open. Your help will get the word out about more elections that are happening across the United States. Please email us at politipod@gmail.com or visit our Facebook group, PolitiPod, and let us know. Thank you for listening to Election Central here on PolitiPod. Of course, elections happen across America every week. Get registered and go vote. Shh. Here she comes.
Good afternoon. My name is Sarah, and For now, I'm the White House press secretary.
Hi, Sarah.
It's been 100 days since my last press briefing, and as you all know, I gave notice, so this is my last press briefing.
Keep coming back, Sarah.
Yeah, I'm never coming back. I have a few steps I need to cover with y'all. First, I need to acknowledge that I'm powerless over the president. I've got a few notes to share from President Trump himself regarding his recent trip to the UK. First, contrary to fake news reports, there were no protests on the streets of London.
Yeah, Sarah?
Second, President Trump and the Queen enjoyed a slow dance together to the song, At Last, in Buckingham Palace after having tea with Simon Cowell.
Wait, they what?
Sarah, I was there, and...
Third, the President and Boris Johnson held a private meeting at Wimbledon where they played a scrimmage match against Venus and Serena Williams.
That wasn't on the official presidential agenda for the trip, Sarah.
That's hilarious. Who won the match?
The president won.
Wait, weren't they playing doubles?
They were. However, President Trump managed to win the match all by himself. Fourth, President Trump was named as a godparent to Meghan and Harry's new baby, Archie.
That isn't even close to true, Sarah.
They loathe him.
And fifth, President Trump met with Anthony Bourdain and has agreed to produce the next season of Parts Unknown.
Does she even know she's lying?
Finally, I want to announce I've had a spiritual awakening, and I'm going to carry my message right back to Arkansas.
Sarah, you skipped like 10 steps.
No, I didn't.
Yes, you did!
Well, that's all for today, and for all the rest of the days. This is Sarah Huckabee Sanders saying, peace out. Thanks, everyone.
How could she say
Sarah,
that shit with a
look me in the
straight
eye and
face?
tell me more.
You're listening to PolitiPod, and this is your word from the street. I'm Matt Nisanoff. Sarah Sanders is stepping down as press secretary. I'll believe it when she denies it. Trump constantly refers to himself in tweets as your favorite president. Yet, the 45th president of the United States isn't even in the top 3 of 45s, lagging behind vinyl records, handguns, and malt liquor. Whitey Bulger wrote letters praising Trump to a juror who convicted him. Well, what do you expect from a guy named Whitey? Special counsel says Kellyanne Conway should be fired for repeated violations, not taking into account that repeated violations are Trump's minimum requirement for hiring. Inspired by the Straight Pride Parade, nation's millionaires demand their own food banks. House Democrats passed a $733 billion budget for the military, the largest budget ever. Republicans voted against it because it was not $750 billion. Who do you have to kill around here to get an extra $17 billion? The U.S. is now seeking social media details from all visa applicants. In fairness, you can judge a person by their cat videos. The Trump administration claims the Iranians attacked a Japanese ship called the Kukara Courageous. Translated to English, that's Gulf of Tonkin. Bookstores in Alabama continue to stock A Handmaiden's Tale, but they've relocated it to the current affairs section. Cover Air Force One with a new paint job? Wow, says the old man wearing orange face and a bad comb-over. The Obamas have inked a deal with Spotify to produce and host podcasts. Someday, Trump will have a deal with Netflix. Sarah Huckabee Sanders is leaving the White House at the end of the month, presumably to spend more time with her family. She may regret that decision when she remembers that includes Mike Huckabee. Eric and Don Jr. reportedly skipped out on an Irish pub bill. Maybe they figured a Mexican restaurant would pay for it. This is Matt Nisanoff with your word from the street from PolitiPod. It's time to thank you all once again for having joined us for PolitiPod. PolitiPod is a joint effort written by Dominic DeCecco, William Ham, Don Holly, Paul Lander, Tom Myers, Matt Nisanoff, Christina Wise. Performed by Tom Bickle, Dominic DeCecco, William Ham, Kristen Joseph, Tom Myers, Jacob Nisanoff, Matt Nisanoff, Christina Wise. With thanks to local and state boards, divisions, and departments of elections, Ballotpedia, Zamzar Conversions, all sounds.
PolitiPod can be downloaded from soundcloud.com/PolitiPod or ipmnation.com/PolitiPod for your enjoyment anytime.
You can find us on Facebook or Twitter at PolitiPod. For all of us at PolitiPod, this is Matt Nisanoff saying, technically on the dole.